I'm here just finishing dinner, just FYI.
No, no worries. I should do that, but I'm not hungry. Yeah, I'm just drinking tea right now.
Got it.
Enjoy your dinner. Don't rush.
Thank you.
Hi, Nisha. Hi, Shantae.
Hello.
Hi, Yahira. Hi, Shantae.
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening.
Message Tyrone. I think, and we know AJ.
Right, yeah, AJ told me he'll either be late or he won't at all, depending on when he's able to get out of what he's doing.
Okay. And I will message Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Christina.
Sure. And then you let me know when it is 4:31. So
Let's give it another minute and then we can just get started. Just to see if Tyrone or anyone else pops in.
he said that he will be joining shortly.
Okay, awesome. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, good to see you. All. Yes, agreed. Sorry that the sun is making like these weird stripes on my face, but I'm gonna rock it.
It looks good. All right, I'm gonna give it another minute just to respect everyone's time and then we can get started. Do you know if Francois is joining us, Christina? Wasn't able to touch base.
Sorry, I'm looking at the. No, I don't know. Is she? Yeah.
I don't remember. I thought she was, but I could be mistaken.
Actually, I don't see her listed.
Okay. And we have the rep for HPU, Hartford University.
Yeah, they're in the waiting room. When you're ready, I can admit.
Awesome. So yeah, you can join them in and then we'll get the meeting started.
Okay.
Thanks, Christina.
Yahira. Hi.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Just in the interest of time, I know different members of my team are going to be doing various pieces. So at that time, just to take a few minutes just to introduce themselves, share their role in the office, just thinking about time, if that's amenable to you, madam.
Of course, and to be conscientious of time as well, I would love, instead of going through every single detail, since you guys sent us the report, just if you can just highlight some of the more staff highlights, like the major highlights, that would be great, as opposed to going through every single little item. Does that make sense? Just the major highlights, and then any of my colleagues have questions, we can follow up.
Okay.
How does that sound?
All right.
All right. Great. So let's get started. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jahira Scribano, For those who don't know, I am one of the newest board members, and it's a pleasure to be chairing the Family and Engagement Committee. And it's great to see a lot of familiar faces here. So again, welcome. I want to get started shortly, but first I just want to ask a question just to set the tone. Very quickly, if you guys can name your favorite teacher, looking back in your past when you were in high school, middle school, elementary, who was your favorite teacher and why? And I can go first. My favorite teacher was Bridget Allison. She was my social studies teacher. The reason why she's my favorite is because she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. She believed in me, and look at me now, graduated from Pub, and now I'm on the Board of Ed. So that's me. Who would like to go next?
I'll go next.
Perfect.
Hi, and it's good to see you chairing the meeting, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
And I look forward to working with you. My favorite teacher was Miss Turner. She was a Buckley teacher, and she was my favorite because she already knew that I would be doing something in typing. It was a word processing class.
Awesome. Thank you, Millie.
Yeah.
Who would like to go next? Or I can call out like a teacher.
I'll go next. I'm Judith Fagan. My favorite teacher was my typing teacher, like Millie. Actually, I didn't want to grow up to be a secretary, but then, and I thought I was just taking that class, because it was easy and I could do it, and realized that I needed the keyboarding skills in college, and I so appreciated her. And have ran into her recently, in my line of work here. So her name was Miss Berry. She was my favorite teacher. Thanks.
That's great.
I'll go with that Berry at Weaver High School.
She said, yeah.
I've been seeing her as of recent also. So I cannot narrow down to one. I have two favorite teachers, one elementary, one high school. Mr. Marshall, because he knew what we needed. He knew the love that he had to pour into us, and he was gentle but serious, and he made a tremendous impact in my life. He taught my brother, my uncle, and me. High school, Miss Mary Pruitt, she was a business teacher, and she was like, you going to college. More of a mother, more of loving, look for opportunities for us, just magical. She still keeps in touch with Miss Berry, so I try to send her messages through there. So those are my two.
That's great.
Shantae,
Tyrone, I saw you. Oh, sorry.
go ahead, Mr. Walker.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in because I too have two. One is Miss Fitzgerald, my kindergarten and first grade teacher, because she was wonderful and nice, and made me enjoy learning, which I think is important at kind of first grade level. And two is Neil Smith, who was my homeroom teacher in 9th grade or so, and really made me feel important and gave me voice and helped me make me feel that my life was important in some kind of way. So those are my two favorite teachers, and I'll hand it off to the next person.
So I'll jump in. I also had two teachers, Mr. Walker and Ms. Brody. For me, she was our library teacher, and probably one of the first teachers of color that I came across, and I was in kindergarten. And I didn't do a lot of talking back then. I used to go to a speech pathologist, so I would have to walk through the library to get to the little. They had like little vans or those trailers. That's what they were. And so she was just always very inspiring. Like, you can do it. You don't need to be nervous. And I had the opportunity to see her at an award ceremony a couple of years ago, and I like lost it because I hadn't seen her in years. And then the other teacher is Miss Himes, again at Windsor High School. I think she was one of 2 teachers of color who taught humanities, English, like all the English courses, and really got us tied in and keyed in to just literature, all types of literature. And, you know, she's not teaching at Windsor High anymore, but she's still very active in our town, and just won't ever forget the 2 of them. And I get to see Miss Jennings more often now since we connected at that award ceremony. So those are my 2.
Thank you, Chief
Okay.
Egbert.
Uh,
Tamara?
Yes, I'll go next. So I'm not trying to be anyone who gave 2, but I have to give 4 because if this happens to go through their timeline or they see them, like I have to shout them all out. So I won't get into the whys, but my favorite teacher is Mrs. Bolden, Miss Krupnikar from Wish School, then Sister Kathleen from St. Justin's, and I graduated from Weaver High, and my favorite teacher was Mr. Corbill because I struggled in algebra, and he was so patient. He stayed after school, and he helped me get through the class and pass. So shout out to all 4 for just imparting their knowledge, their concern and care for me, my learning, and just making sure that I, you know, progress. So sorry, I am an overachiever at times and the go-getter, so.
Ain't nothing wrong with being an overachiever. Who would like to go next? We got, let's see, Liliana.
Hi, Jahaira, nice to meet you. Okay, so I can't, I'm a huge nerd, so I love all my teachers. I've only hated one teacher in my entire life. So not to go above Tamara, because I think that being able to actually pull that one favorite teacher, I think that takes a lot, right? But I am going to say that, I'm sorry. My favorite teacher was my mom. I'm sorry. Not because she was my mom, but because she really did give it all for her students. And that's what I try to do now. So shout out to my mom, who is my favorite teacher. And I wish that our students could have her this day. So
Thank you so much for sharing that. I really do appreciate that. I know we all do. Okay, sorry, I needed a moment there. Michelle, would you like to go?
Sure. Thank you for sharing that, Viviana. She did a great job. So she must have been a really awesome teacher. My favorite teacher was in school. Now Viviana like shifted my whole mindset on the question. I'm like, oh my gosh. But was Mrs. Donato. She was my 7th grade reading teacher, and the reason she really stood out is like she just loved us very much and really saw us as like the people that we were, and she made it really fun. Like I still remember she dressed up as like certain characters from the books. We got to vote to name her dog, and she brought her new puppy in our class, and like just she was really out of the box and just very loving. And we would all like go visit her even in 8th grade and stayed in touch with her throughout high school. So she was just like our biggest advocate, and also just someone we really knew we could talk to and count on. And because of that, the love and the fun, like we learned a lot from her as well.
Thank you, Michelle. Christina, do you want to go?
I wasn't after Viviana. Thanks for that. Okay, so I don't know why I want to say this on in this meeting, but I was lucky. I had a lot of great teachers, but one that stands out was Mr. Cicero, 8th grade civics, back when they taught civics class, for 2 reasons. One, he was just such a funny and engaging teacher that he made you love the class, love the content, love everything. But 2, I was a good girl, good student, but I kind of fell in with a bad crowd in the 7th and 8th grade. And I cheated on a test in his class, right? And he caught me. And I was like, oh, I said, I'm dead. I'm dead. My parents are going to kill me, et cetera, et cetera. instead of telling them, he chose to have a conversation with me, and he just knew how to handle each student. And I don't know what it was, why he knew how to handle me. And after that, I aced that class. I was on the straight and narrow again. And it was just the way he handled me, that situation and everything, that I will never forget him.
Thank you, Christina. And hopefully we are recording, so it won't get back to you. Maybe not. Alejandro, would you like to go?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Favorite teacher, I have to say, had to be Awilda Sustache. That was a 4th grade teacher back in Barnard Brown Elementary School that doesn't exist now anymore. And she was very approachable, very patient, and was very friendly to all the students.
Thank you, Alejandro. Marcelo?
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm really bad with names, but I do remember this teacher I have in middle school. I was really bad in math, and he did stay with me after school for hours to explain me a lot of things that I didn't know and I couldn't understand. And it helped me a lot in change. It changed my mind about mathematics and everything. So now I'm really happy to meet him and everything. So thank you.
Thank you, Marcelo. Carmen, would you like to go? It's good to see you.
Yeah, Haida, it's wonderful to see you and all of you, Nasher as well. I went to Burr Elementary School here in Hartford, but I did my high school in Puerto Rico, and my favorite teacher was my gym teacher. He said, whatever you do in life, you had to take care of yourself physically and mentally. So he really did a nice number, which I was very then competitive in sports.
Thank you, Carmen. Deb, would you like to go, Deborah? Oh, you're on mute.
I'm sorry. Good evening, everyone. I don't have just one teacher. I have one from elementary, Miss Rayfield, my 3rd grade teacher. She always made us feel safe, and my 7th grade teacher, Mrs. Granger, that's back when New Park Avenue was New Park Avenue School and not the parking lot over there at Parkville. She would always remember birthdays and special occasions, and you would get a little birthday card or a cupcake, and she made a big deal out of it. And in high school, my gym teacher, Miss Duval, she made us believe that we could be anything and anybody that we wanted to be, as long as we worked hard and put our mind to it. So those are my favorite teachers.
Thank you. I think Charisse, and I don't know if I'm missing anyone else. Please raise your hand or you can speak out if I missed you. I see 2 screens, but I'm not sure if they're okay. Yes, see, I missed. Go right ahead. Oh, you're on mute.
Hi.
Okay. Charisse, you can go first.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. The first person that comes to mind is my 3rd grade teacher. Her name is Mrs. Fairweather. She just did not play any games. She had that toughness, but she was very nurturing. And I think that's so important around that 3rd grade age. She was also of Caribbean descent, so I can hear her accent as I just recall the memories. And she was hard on us, but she taught structure and organization, and she provided safety too, all the while being nurturing and loving at the same time.
Thank you, Charisse. Mauricia, did I say your name right? Mauricia?
Yes, you did say my name right.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Mauricia. I have 2 as well. My 11th grade biology teacher, Mr. Glickenhaus. I hate biology, hated it back then, still hate it now, but he made it so I understood it, and he took time with me one-on-one every Tuesday and Thursday to make sure I understood his material and concept, and I finished the class with a B, surprisingly. And my second one is Miss Walker at Achievement First. She was my government and state teacher, yeah. And she was also my cheerleading coach. So whatever I messed up in class, she would make me pay for it in cheerleading. So she always kept me on my toes, and she's actually the principal at Achievement First right now. So I'm actually really happy for her, and I still think about her to this day.
Thank you so much for sharing. Did I get everyone? Did I miss anyone? No, got everyone. And I'm sorry it took a little bit longer, but I wanted to set the tone and just again remind all of us one of the reasons why we're here, right? For our students and our staff and our teachers. And I appreciate you guys being honest. And teachers don't have an easy job, nor do any of us do, right? But we care for our community. We're here for our kids, for our family and our staff. So I'm really excited to be here with all of you guys. And I know we're gonna get good stuff going and continuing that good work. So I want to pass it on to Hartford Parent University. Millie, I know you're gonna do a presentation. Before we move there, I want to ask you, do you prefer to stop in the middle of your presentation for our board members to ask question, or should we wait until the end? You know your presentation best. What do you suggest? What would be better?
Millie, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
Perdón, sorry.
That's okay.
So it could be in the middle or at the end, whichever you prefer, but it's fairly quick. I can go over it really quick, and
Perfect. So let's wait until the end. Let's do the end so that way you have your flow. So I ask my colleagues, hold your questions until the end of the presentation.
Okay,
Thank you, Christina, for sharing the screen.
Okay, thank you, Christina. Okay, so the types of discussions we're going to discuss tonight is program goals, our successes and challenges, and then data tracking, and then next steps. So our program goal number one was to recruit 15 parents to participate in online HPU empowerment and parent empowerment classes. Each of the schools achieved their goals on recruiting 15 parents. And so these parents have been taking classes since January through February and continuing through March. They have from January to May to complete 10 classes. That's their goal. So you can see the schools that we are responsible for, and they all completed the 15 parents that was required of them. Next slide. And then some of our successes, like I said, they were able to complete the goal. Parents became more knowledgeable in navigating the technology and internet while they were doing this. 50 parents completed 174 HPU online classes. 174 pre-assessments were completed. 109 post-surveys were completed, with 65 currently in the process of being completed. So just to give you a little background on that, when they receive a text message, we had to make it very simple for them. So they receive a PDF, and on the PDF, they have these 10 classes, English and Spanish, and they're recorded on Zoom. And they click on the link, it takes them to the pre-assessment. They fill out the pre-assessment, they take the class right on their phone. They could do it on their phone or on a PC. And then they call the parent organizer to let them know that they completed these classes, and they go over the classes with them to see if they have any questions or so forth. And then they're sent the post survey. So that's why we still have 65 currently in the process of being completed. And then parents are eager to participate in more classes. So we keep hearing, we want more classes even after they finished. So next slide. So some of the challenges. So school phone list needs to be a little bit more current for better efficiency. We had some wrong numbers, and I know that Hartford is very transient. So, but just to have that, when we start this project, that could be a little bit more cleaner. That would have helped us progress even more. The high population of Portuguese families with limited interpretation services. So what we did as HPU is we're working with a vendor to provide Portuguese interpretation and translation. And they're even going to translate all of our classes into Portuguese so that those Portuguese families can start taking online classes. Yeah. And then navigating the internet to participate in HPU Parent Portal. Like I said, we started with that and we realized that they needed something more simpler. So that's what we did. We created something better for them. Next slide. And then program goal number 2, the parent organizers had to recruit 12 parents to participate in the parent network action team so that they can start their sessions. And they have 5 sessions that they have to be a part of so that they can work on the family action plan. And also before they do that, they survey their community, their school community through a survey and collect feedback. And then also learn about the Title I parent engagement policy. So those meetings are now, they've recruited their 12 members. Some of them surpassed their 12 members, as you can see, Martin Luther King, just to highlight, and McDonough surpassed in Hartford High. So, which was great. Next slide, please. So the successes in this area, like I said, they attained the goal. Most of the parents are now more familiar with the Zoom platform because we make sure that they had that installed on their phone or on their PC. What was interesting in this is that their own kids were helping them do it, which was kind of nice. Parents are excited and more engaged in participating in their children's school. So they're eager to learn more and continue to help their children. Next slide, please. And some of the challenges. So technology is a reoccurring challenge. So we're having to meet them where they are with it and getting them on either online classes or on the Zoom platform. But it's okay because as they learn, they're taking off. So which is great. The Zoom app, like I said, needed to be installed. And due to work schedules of parents, more Zoom meetings are being scheduled to meet them where they are, right? So, and we don't mind doing that. We don't mind, if there's only 2 parents on a Zoom call, as long as we get them on the Zoom and they become more familiar with it, and then they'll be all as a group at some point. Next slide, please. So let's talk about a little bit about data tracking. HPU online class participation, we'll go over that. Next slide. So here we just kind of gave you like a little picture of each class, each school, and where are the parents now. So Alfred E. Burr Middle School, you can see the Spanish speaking and the English are taking classes. Those are the classes that they've taken thus far. Buckley had a little, it was a little bit more challenging at Buckley with the list and with trying to get them up and going, but they're starting to take off. Next slide, please. Hartford High is the same. With Hartford High, I'm starting to see more parents now get online. So that 2 really now is like 6. And Maria Sanchez, this report is as of the 25th of February, so that you can get a picture of when it stopped, the data. It didn't stop, but it stopped for this report. And then Maria Sanchez, you can see there's more Spanish speaking taking classes, right? Next slide, please. Martin Luther King, Martin Luther King has a high population of Spanish as well. So you can see here that they're taking classes as well, more Spanish. And then McDonough has done a great job as well. It's just like Maria Sanchez. So they're at 9 parents of their 15 that are taking classes, which is good. Next slide, please. Parkville is really doing great. It's taken off. Very, very, they started off really good, and the organizer there is really, really on top of, every organizer, we do train them, but they do the extra, right? So that's at the end that's what we want to see in this work is what was those things that why you have 12 and someone may have 6, right? And then Weaver High School, you can see there that they started taking classes as well. Next slide, please. So this is the pre-assessment data that we collected. So we asked them, how familiar are you with the topic presented? So you can see there, it was very low as far as what the how familiar they were with the topic. And then you can see how knowledgeable do you think you are on this topic to help your child with their learning at school or at home. You can see that that's very low. So we want to see what the difference was right after they took the class. Next slide, please. This is the other question we had. How active are you in your child's school? You can see it's 45. And then the middle, kind of somewhat is the middle average, right? So now we're going to see the posts of the survey. Next slide, please. So here's the post assessment. My participation in this online class has made me more familiar with the topic. You can see how high it was. My participation in the online class will help enhance my knowledge as a parent leader. You can see how high it was, and the same thing goes for the other two. And what is the overall rating of this class? They scored it very high. So next slide, please. Learning sessions, we met with the staff of the Office of Engagement, and we have set aside 4 learning sessions, March 10th and April 21st, April 28th, and May 26th. April 21st, we're going to have 2 classes on that day for the English language learners, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And then we're also going to be providing Spanish and Portuguese interpreters during the learning sessions. Next slide, please. So next steps, scheduling dates for family and community service provider trainings. We've already talked to Viviana, and we're going to be doing that probably early next week to schedule those dates, and schedule and conduct parent network action team meetings per school. We will be working on that. So we have to schedule those 5 PNAT meetings, and the overall goal is for us to create a family action plan so that the next year they will have a plan coming in. Okay.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I'm going to open it up to my fellow board members, to my fellow colleagues. Does anybody have any question?
I do. This is Shantae. But Mr. Walker, you can go first.
Oh, sorry. So Millie,
Sure.
a question was to ask is, what additional support can you like to receive? It appeared that, I mean, Portuguese interpretation seemed to be one, but were there some others?
I think, I mean, the whole point of this bottom-up approach model is so that it can become an in-house model, right? So I think, after we train the FCSSPs, just to really take ownership of the model so that it can continue from year after year. It has shown to be effective already when we did it with the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving funding. So just more support for the FCSSPs, so that they can do this work, right? Because it is intense to recruit parents, and giving them the support, like if Spanish speaking and Portuguese interpreters and so forth. So.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Ms. Brody?
And I don't know if this is for HPU or for Ms. Black-Burke, but when data is presented, I'm trying to follow the data, right? So we got an initial presentation of the work that was going to be done, and it said, I plan to do this, that, and it was listed out, right? So how are we gonna track that in the way that we received it? So we had some metrics, So how are we gonna follow along with what was accomplished? Any thoughts on that?
So what I gave you today in the committee, Ms. Brody, is an overall of the data. But I do send all the data to Ms. Blackburn of the individual names and emails and pre and post data. All of that is provided to that office.
Okay, yeah, because I was really looking for maybe if Ms. Blackburn was gonna address that. Like, so as board members, we can follow just straight data. When we get these presentations, it's wonderful. It's giving us the meat of it. I appreciate that, but then when we look at the bottom line and we look at this is what was supposed to be done, this is what was met, this is they achieved above here, maybe some challenges here, but in like a data sort of way, a little bit different from what we're getting now. So maybe I'm assuming maybe their office is putting it in a way that's just, you know, is good. What you're presenting today is good for this committee, but a board member that is not a part of this committee and they just want to see how are we doing, you know, with this partnership. So I don't know, it was the plan maybe out of her office to present it in that way.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. I think Chief Blackburn, you can respond to that. Let me know if.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So two things. First, I wanted to just go back to just offer a clarifying point that the bottom-up approach, yes, we had piloted this in, oh, Millie, I can't remember, a couple of schools.
Before 2019.
Right, before 2019. And so when we received the proposal, we decided to move forward with this again. So while we have our family, community, and service support providers that are working on behalf of families in our buildings, this is in addition to. So I know Millie had shared that one of the other pieces of support is that this would become something in-house, but it's also, I want to make sure that it's all understood that it's complementary to what is also taking place in our schools by our FCSSPs. And as you can tell from the data shared, that it does work, like the FCSSPs and the parent outreach worker, I think I got it right this time, Millie, they work together to get this work done. So I just wanted to address that piece. The second piece is, Millie, if there is a need for interpretation services, the board approved the language line contract and we utilize it. Like that's something we utilize. Every school, every FCSSP knows how to. So if the parent outreach workers need interpretation services or something like that, they can just ask the FCSSP and they can get it all set up, dialed up, and we go from there. Okay, now to the latter part, Ms. Brody. When we started out this journey together, there was the ask of the committee to have monthly reports submitted to the office, and then like a bi-monthly update given to this committee. What we can do, because I mean, I have all of those reports, what we can do, what I'm hearing, Millie, is that Ms. Brody is looking for something much more similar to what you send us for a monthly report that kind of goes along each of the indicators that you shared. So I guess in the future, we'll look to compile the report that way. So it doesn't, so we wouldn't be asking you to do 2 reports. You understand what I mean?
I get it. I mean, I just wanted to be, you know, because there's a lot of names on these reports. So I just wanted to make sure that that's some confidentiality that, you know, that's why I just send it directly to your office, Nishette, so that, you know, you can have the backup for this presentation, right? So
Chief Blackburn, if there's a way that we can grab, you know, those data like the goals and then what was achieved, to Ms. Brody's point, we can just get that as opposed to getting everything else that's confidential. Would that be going forward? We can get that into place.
Madam Chair, I think that's amenable for sure. I would ask Viviana, and because Viviana is the contact for HPU from our office, and I know that you all have had lots of conversations and meetings. So I would ask her to work with them to, you know, a format, a template to have the report in the way that the committee wants to see it.
Great. Thank you, Chief Blackbird and Viviana and Millie. Ms. Brody, did you have, my apologies, let me turn off my phone. Any other questions or follow-up?
No, I just want to make sure I'm not asked. I don't think I'm asking for what was described. I'm not asked. I'm just saying, like, just we were Madam Chair, like in the original presentation, it would have been something like we will and I'm just making this up. Don't hold me to it. We will train 80 parents, and then just to follow up on that, 40 parents were trained, just along those same lines. Nothing like that would break down the individuals or any of that. I'm just saying, like, simple. This was the metric. This was the goal, and this is what we accomplished. Like that, not creating a long list of how many who the participants were. Nothing that detailed. Just helping board members see. That's like we do it. Like we've been talking about, like in our other meetings, trying to understand and just know where. So, because if we know the struggles, we can advocate and say, well, if that is a struggle, that they're doing well, that is a success. Just that simple, nothing detailed.
Thank you, Ms. Brody. And I think Viviana and Chief Blackbird, that's exactly the information you're getting, and you'll be able to provide that to us. I just want to clarify we're on the same page.
No, I just put that in the chat also, Madam Chair. And sorry, Mr. Walker, didn't mean to jump in front of your hand, but yes, I am totally following what you're saying, Ms.
Great, awesome. Thank you, Chief Blackbird, Viviana. Mr. Walker?
Yeah, no, I'm just seconding because I'm a new member to the committee. And so I'm just saying it'd be very helpful to me because I was seeing certain numbers and I didn't know quite where they were going. And so I was just going to take it offline. But now that you guys have kind of cleared it up, it would be good to have a burn down list, just some summary of what the plan was that may have started before I joined in. And yeah, so I look forward to getting that information.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Any other questions from my fellow colleagues?
Madam Chair, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So Carmen Sierra, I'm part of the board of Hartford Parent University. And sometimes it might be helpful if you have your own template, depending on what program or committee you have as to what type of information you're looking for. So it could be consistent with everyone and every program. But for us as a board member, we do request and review the report that Millie, the executive director, prepares before it goes out to make sure. I'm very, very serious about making sure that we meet the goals. And if we're not meeting those particular goals, then to share those concerns with you and the rest of the committee, especially with Nashette. So the one that I see that is continued to be a challenge, and Millie did mention, is the phone list. I don't know if Nashette had the opportunity with Millie to discuss if there's a way to address that. I know it's a very challenging one, sometimes out of our control, your control, but I don't know if there's a better way of improving that area.
Thank you, Carmen. And to add to that, I do have a couple of questions. As you know, I am a new board member here and getting acquainted with all the information. So I look forward to receiving that information, but I was hoping you can provide me some more background information, Millie, about the Parent Network Action Team, to just give me a little bit of background of what that is and what that looks like. Like, Hartford Parent University, so what is the Parent Network Action Team and what is their role?
So the Parent Network Action Team is a group of 12 parents in the school. Yep. And they're not affiliated like with the PTO or the SGC. There's 12 parents that assess the school community and bring back that information that was assessed to the group, so that then that could be a part of the family action plan for the new year.
Okay.
So, families might say, that bullying is like the top one that they want training in, or they want to see more improved in the school. So in a family action plan, you would say, okay, so we need to bring training for parents about the bullying policy. Okay, so that everybody can be in sync. So, and then they might want to know more about the curriculum. So that we gather that they gather that information, they work with the FCSSP to implement it into the family action plan for the new coming year.
Great, thank you so much for that background. And then one more follow-up questions. I saw for some of the high school, the classes that you're offering, what you offer in Buckley and versus Hartford High is a little bit different. So how do you determine the classes at those schools?
So they will determine this from the incoming feedback, right?
Okay.
Because it could be a number of things. It could be different from school to school. And then they determine who is actually providing those classes. What CBO is already doing that, or what it maybe Hartford Public Schools is doing that. Maybe we can bring them in to do a class on it. But the classes that we have in HPU are our standard classes that we offer. So they take those, they start learning their rights, they start learning all the different things that we offer, right? And then we also have the learning sessions that we then start bringing in Hartford Public Schools trainings and a CBO training, and then one of our classes. So we have 3 of those that we have to do in the contract.
Thank you so much, Millie, for that background information and clarification. For myself, Mr. Walker, and just the viewing public audience, is there any other questions from my colleagues about Hartford Parent University? We will, my apologies, Chief Blackbird and Viviana will work on getting us that data that we talked about earlier. And I think that was one of the biggest things from this conversation that I've got. Am I missing anything?
Madam Chair, also just want to make sure that you and Mr. Walker do have, because I think context is important, and didn't know exactly where we were going to start today, but I know that we're going to try to find some time to connect, to have a deeper conversation. But I will ask Christina to share the prior PowerPoints and also the indicator list that I referenced to Ms. Brody's point that says like, okay, we'll have 12 parents, or I almost shared it, but I was like, no, I don't want to hold up the meeting. So I'll ask Christina to make sure that's shared with you and Mr. Walker and any other new members of the committee, so you have that for context.
Great, that would be greatly appreciated. And I think it'll be good for a refresher for my other colleagues who have been on the board who may not always be able to join the Family and Community Engagement Committee. And to Tyrone's, Mr. Walker's point earlier, Millie, if there's anything else, I know you're going to work with Chief Blackbird, but if there's any other way we can continue assisting you, just let us know, especially in the interpretation. Like, we want to see you and our parents and our staff and our kids succeed. So if there's a question or any of that, please know we're here to assist you.
No, thank you.
Just let us know. And
absolutely,
no empty promises, but just be honest and let us know. We can see what we can do together.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. And now I'm going to pass it off to Chief Blackbird. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're going to go over the Promise Neighborhood Grant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so I wouldn't say necessarily go over. I always like to bring information to this committee. And I know it was shared at the last committee meeting, but again, want to just touch on it one more time, just to ensure that there's notification. I know the funds have to be accepted by the board at some point. We did not have a chance to discuss it at the last Finance Committee meeting because there was a lot on that particular agenda. But just wanted to
and just to be clear for my other colleagues and everyone, we're gonna go over, you're gonna go over a couple of stuff with the Promise Neighborhood Grant, and once we feel that we have enough information, we will pass it along to our Finance Committee and go from there. I just want to be clear with everyone here. Once our committee feels like we have the information we need, we will pass it along to the Finance Committee. So would you prefer we hold questions at the end, Chief Blackbird?
Sure. I think that's because what I'm going to share, it's very, very high level, because as Promise Neighborhood is they're still doing a lot of community engagement. We did have a couple of parents from Hartford Public Schools kind of give input when this was being formed, like the grant piece of Promise Neighborhood was being put together. But community engagement is still going on. I believe some of you may have attended a couple of the sessions. So I'll start there. Okay. So North Hartford Ascend Pipeline, I keep saying Promise Neighborhood, but the grant is actually called the North Hartford Ascend Pipeline. And yes, it's a federal grant. And about a year ago now, that came out from the federal government, and there was an opportunity to apply for that. As a city, we had applied about 3 or 4 times in the past, and we were not successful. You can go ahead, Christina. Thank you. Christina?
I think it probably froze on her. You there, Christina?
It did. I'm sorry. I was looking for the mute in. Why is it not moving? Okay.
Technical difficulties.
I think this happened last time, and I did. This is why I'm scrolling.
Okay, there we go. And yes, it is sponsored by the Department of Education Promise Neighborhood Programs. Okay, and this time around, the Connecticut Children's Medical Center, they were approached by the city of Hartford to be like the lead applicant. And of course, the school district, along with a few other entities, were asked to be a part of the grant writing process. And so we signed on to do that. You can move to the next slide. Thank you, Christina. So I won't read it to you, but this is the overview, the purpose of the North Hartford Ascend Pipeline. As you can see, when you look at the purpose, improve the academic and developmental outcomes in distressed communities. The strategy is creating pipeline services. And then the project period, it's a 5-year grant. It is a 5-year grant. So that's the overall purpose of the North Hartford Ascend Pipeline under that Promise Neighborhood program through the federal government, improve academic outcomes, create pipeline services, and that's the project period. So this is a 5-year grant. You can move forward, Christina. Okay, so these are I would say the areas that the federal government is expecting through the work, not just the work of Hartford Public Schools, but all of the contributors to the North Hartford Ascend Pipeline, that we would be making an impact on students being ready to enter kindergarten, proficiency in math and English, high school transitions from student transitions from middle to high school. Of course, we want to have our students graduate, obtaining secondary degrees, supporting our families, overall being healthy, feeling safe in the community, and then living in stable communities, and then of course, access to 21st century learning tools. Like, those are the results that we would want to see in 2026. We want to see improvement in these areas through the North Hartford Ascend Pipeline Grant, and Hartford Public Schools being one of those contributors, being one of the partners for this grant. You can go ahead, Christina. I know the last time we met, I had shared with Ms. Brody, I was like, I think this particular slide will make everybody smile, because I know how important metrics and just having good data means to our board. And so you see the results that I just mentioned on the other side, on one side under that darker blue column, and then where it says Promise Neighborhood Program Performance Indicators, those are the indicators that we would be looking to utilize to ensure that we get to those results. So those are some real hefty performance indicators. Of course, this work at Hartford Public Schools would not just be done by my office alone, but it would be done in collaboration with the Office of Academics, the Office of Data Accountability, with Dr. Silver, Chief Avila. So it would be a holistic approach from Hartford Public Schools, looking to reach those performance indicators, not absent of working with all of the other partners on this particular grant. Thank you, Christina. All right, you can keep going. And so the next few slides, again, just restate what the goal is. The North Hartford Ascend Pipeline. This is just another way of how all of the areas overlap each other. The coordinated services, And I had mentioned those before. And of course, the end part is that data collection and analysis. Another way of looking at what we would be looking to do, and those are like the big buckets under the coordinated pipelines: early care education, primary, post-secondary health and safety, and then the resident and community leadership and system building.
Thank you, Chief Blackburn, for that overview.
You are very welcome. And the only other piece that I would want to add right here is that as a school district, when we looked at the promise, I keep saying promise neighborhood because that's what it said on the federal grant application.
It's in the promise zone.
It's in the promise zone, right? But the North Hartford Ascend pipeline, we thought about those pipeline services. And so because the promise neighborhood sits in that North Hartford area, the schools that are impacted by this grant are Sand School, Wish, Martin Luther King Middle, Milner Middle, and Weaver High School. And of course, we're talking about pipeline services. Those schools are feeders to each other. So Sand and Wish feed to Milner and MLK. MLK and Milner feed to Weaver High School. We also, as a district, we utilize a community school framework. And so in that community school framework, there are a lot of wraparound services and already some pipeline services that are there. So as we wrote the grant, we thought about how do we build on that and how do we expand on what's already there? And thinking about the work happening at Sand and Wish, MLK and Milner with the partners that are there, and now Weaver also has their own partner, we were like, okay, we can actually begin to look at a coordinated strategy to build on the services that are there, and then how do we connect to what is going to be placed in the North Hartford Promise Zone, and also building on what's already there. So, and looking at the pipeline and the domains, we were like, absolutely, this is something that as a district would be able to build on using our community school framework as a launching pad to really get to those coordinated pipeline services. So I just wanted to make sure I added that piece. When we talked about the grant, we thought about what could we do with some immediacy at our schools. So we looked at what positions could we add to our school to help us with coordinating those pipeline services. So at Sand and Wish and Milner and MLK, we looked at adding an MTSS specialist. And I know in other committees, you've learned about MTSS, but those MTSS specialists would be able to look at the data and see what students looking at the early warning indicators would benefit from being or receiving additional services. We also looked at adding a school counselor, an additional social worker, and additional FCSSP at Weaver High School. Of course, we want to have good, solid data. So how are we going to gather all of that with all the moving pieces for this particular grant, and thinking about adding a family engagement analyst to compile the data as we move along. So as we are looking at the services being offered at Wish and Sand, Milner Middle, and MLK and Weaver, how are we rolling up that data to ensure we are meeting those indices that will get us to those results? So I just wanted to add those pieces as far as positions that we would look to add and the schools that would benefit from the North Hartford Promise Zone work.
Thank you, Chief Blackburn. I want to open it up to the floor to my colleagues, Mr. Walker, Ms. Brody. Do you guys have any questions for Chief Blackburn?
Chief Blackburn, the presentation is exciting. The opportunity is exciting. What I would like to see, maybe it's still early on, is one, who the partners actually are, and as this gets fleshed out, a lot more detail in terms of what the different roles folks are going to play in, maybe a timeline around that. For me, it feels like there's a significant opportunity to make 0 through 5 better within this community. and that's kind of before they hit the school building. And so that may or may not be part of the scope of your, program. So that would be kind of a question. You kind of touched on it, but I wanted to know, like, the program they're doing over McDonough, where they're doing this kind of somewhat early warning and interventions at a middle school level. It sounds like you're doing some of the same things here. So is some of that could be incorporated in your program? So I guess my second question.
Madam Chair?
Chief Blackburn,
Okay.
you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Walker. So exactly what you shared is what we would look to build on. So the work being done with the early warning indicators, having a dedicated MTSS specialist to help build on that, to assist students in connecting them. Excuse me, you mentioned like what they're doing over at McDonough, being able to connect them to other services, whether those services would be something already happening in the school, or maybe the services would be something broader happening in the North Hartford area. So yes, it would be utilizing those EWEs to do that. And just to address the first part, which I'm glad you mentioned that, it's an interesting piece because we submitted a grant. And so of course, as you know, when you submit a grant, now we're trying to ensure that, okay, what we've submitted, we're building that out. So I know myself, Michelle and Ms. Alvarado, they are also a part of work groups, a community engagement work group, a family engagement work group. And of course, we want to ensure that our families in our buildings know what's going on. Someone asked me the question, like, what is your hope for the first year? I'm like, just really common understanding. I want our families to know exactly what is happening and how they fit into that. So like one of our immediate next steps would be one, to put together the larger project plan, which our fellow Ms. Eiffel is working on with me. And that's for in-house. And then also externally, we want to have our own community engagement with our families at those particular schools so we can share this with them and they can have common understanding of what's about to happen. So thank you for the first part. I thought that was super important that you touched on that.
Thank you, Chief Blackburn. Mr. Walker, do you have any other questions for Chief Blackburn?
No, I'll let others comment.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Ms. Brody?
I don't have anything.
Great. Similar to my colleague, Mr. Walker, he already asked kind of what I wanted to ask about those community partners within the schools that already exist, getting a better picture for myself. Like I already know, like for example, Milner School, I know Catholic Charities is in there, right? And I know we have the food pantry, which by the way, I helped make it. I went on my old job at Food Share. But I think it would be good, at least for some of the newer members too. And I know you guys sent us the list of those community partners, which thank you, but I think particularly around these schools, if we can get a list of those community partners within those schools. So as we continue these conversations going forward, we have a better sense of all of that. That would be my only ask, Chief Blackburn. But this is really great. I'm really happy to hear the holistic approach. And this is exactly what, in my opinion, the city needs, because it's not just on the school, it's not just on the board, it's the entire community, it's the entire city. So I'm really excited about the possibility of this pipeline. So if none of my colleagues have any additional questions, I think we are good to move it along to the Finance Committee. So I'm just going to open it one more time if there's any other clarifying questions that you would like to ask Ms. Blackburn before we send it off to the Finance Committee. Hearing none, I think we're good to go. And obviously, if there's any other questions, you can email me or Christina, and we will follow up should you have any additional questions once it gets to the Finance Committee. So thank you again, Ms. Blackburn, for that overview of the SEND pipeline. And now we're going to move on to the next thing on our agenda and being mindful of the time. We have the school governance update, the monthly welcome center report entitled one funds update. So as I said earlier today, if we can just have major staff highlights of that, I don't expect you guys to go line item through everything, just to respect your time and everyone's time. I would appreciate just major highlights, especially since we were given the reports ahead of time. So I'll pass it on to whoever needs to give us the report on school governance. We'll start off with school governance.
That's me. Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, Christina, if you have the report, if not, that's okay. I think I know it by heart. So last time I updated this report was actually yesterday. I'm very, very happy to see that our shout out to our EDSLs. I hope they're watching this, and if not, I always give them a huge shout out because they are on it. They receive this report every Thursday, and they get in touch with their principals, they get in touch with their schools. So we do have 2 new schools, I'm lying, 3 new schools in the green. So that means that they have the 14 full members that they should have in sitting in their school governance council. I'm happy to report that none of the schools have lost a number of members in which they have fallen back into the red, right? So all of our schools that require a school governance council do have one. The school with the lowest amount, I might not be correct, but I think it's 11 members or 12. So it's not like we have any schools with 9 members, just like borderline, right? Between yellow and red. So that is super, super exciting. Parental involvement has been great. I have been in touch with many of our chairs, and they are ready to work. A lot of the new chairs are just emailing me, hey, can I have a one-on-one with you so we can go over what's my role, what can I do? Love that. So I'm very, very happy. Actually, in 5 days, it will be my 1-year anniversary at this position. So I'm very excited that March 2022, I'm presenting a full green and yellow sheet instead of a red and yellow. So that's our report for now. If anybody has any questions, like Madam Chair mentioned, regarding like any specific lines or details, definitely I'm open to it.
Thank you, Ms. Alvarado, and congratulations. And prior to us, I'm assuming some of these were red, so I'm going to assume that. So I'm really happy to see that these are yellow and green, and hopefully we can make them all green, right? So I'm going to open it up. Mr. Walker, Ms. Brody, do you have any questions about school governance?
I don't.
No, not at this time.
Great, thank you. So we will move on to, thank you, Ms. Alvarado. We'll move on to the monthly welcome center report.
I know Ms. Fagan had audio issues, and I just let her, I think she was calling in. She was in the waiting room. I didn't, so let me see. Ms. Fagan can.
I said connecting iPhone.
Connecting to iPhone. Yeah, I see the.
Yeah, I think she may be having some audio issues.
We could,
Madam Chair, could we move to Title I and then come back to Ms. Fagan?
Yeah, let's do that.
To come off mute. Good evening, Madam Chair, everyone. This is Tamara, the Assistant Director in the Office of Family and Community Partnerships. So the report was sent over to Christina just to capture where we are with Title I funds. We are still in the spend down of the monies and working with our FCSSPs to ensure that workshops are occurring and the monies are spent according to the guidelines. Can you scroll down a little bit to the bottom? So from the report, you can see where, oh, I'm missing the heading, where we started with the Title I monies in the right, the lower right corner is where we are. So we still have a ways to go, but we are continuously working with our FCSSPs, school building staff, and of course for parent voice, to capture our parent voices to ensure the needs of our families are met by way of activities, events, learning opportunities for the families. We also send updated information to our EDLs to share with principals. And so we're just being instrumental with getting the data to everyone to ensure that we are spending down the money as quickly as possible, but not only as quickly as possible, but efficiently and also effectively to ensure our students and families have what they have requested. And that's a quick overview.
Thank you so much for that overview. Mr. Walker, Ms. Brody, do you have any questions about the Title I reports?
I do. What's the far, I can't see the titles up top. Is the far right what has been spent? Yeah. No, that's what they have to spend.
Yeah, so the available is the far right. It's so, I'm sorry, I hear an echo. I'm getting sidetracked. So it has the information for each line, what's allocated per school. Then it shows what's been encumbered and then what's the available budget per school. And I don't see the school information on here. Let me.
I know if I think to get the edit that.
Yeah, that it looks a little different.
Okay.
We'll ask them to present it.
I'm sorry, I'm hearing echo. I'm hearing echo. Anyone else?
I am as well.
Okay, do we hear it? Okay, that's good. I don't hear anything else.
Okay, so the echo is back or no?
No, it's gone.
Okay. So I always pay attention to this. Prior to being a board member, I always pay attention to this. And I know they probably like, here she goes, because this is something that I think is a direct sometimes it's like a direct reflection, right? Because we know parents being involved in knowing what's going on in the school system and being able to know how to support their young people, that makes the world of a difference in achievement. It does, right? So with this money representing us doing just that, the activities have to be for parents to be engaged around their child's learning. So when we have schools that are not spending any money, and this money will go back to the federal government, it's not like money we're going to keep and use next year. So we don't ever want to be in a position that we're telling the federal government, we don't need your money to engage parents when we know that makes the difference. And at the same time, when we are presented as a board, education results, we are saying, okay, this doesn't necessarily, they're not the results we want. And we have help with these funds on bringing parents on board to help us, improve achievement. So every time I see this amount, like I see some schools not using money, I'm saying, well, our schools I just think no money should ever go back, ever. So I'm assuming this land, and we're getting towards the end of the school year. So can someone confirm for me who this lies with? Like at the end of the day, is it the principal that we're looking at saying you didn't spend this money? Because I think a different approach a different conversation needs to happen, because every year we're having the same conversation. This money is designated for this reason, and we don't spend it all. And one thing I do want to squeeze in here, can I get an amount? Can board members be sent the amount that was sent back last year? Like the amounts we got and the amounts we did not use. That will be helpful for me too. But this is like unacceptable. I hate to see this report, because I always know that it's gonna say we are not spending these funds in engaging our parents around the education and how they can help us help their child. My rant is over.
Ms. Brody, thank you so much. And it's not a rant. You are speaking truth, and I think all of us share those same sentiments. I see Ms. Chief Blackbird's hand up. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Brody. Just wanted to, and not a rant, completely. I think our office, we are in full agreement with you. The money needs to be spent, and it's not that as an office we aren't sharing tools, exemplars, templates, doing outreach, working with EDSLs, So I do want to add that piece that Ms. Mitchell Davis and team, they are working with FCSSPs. We have sent memos out. We have asked schools to have this money encumbered by the end of March. Like, you need to present your plans. I know when we have our cohort meetings with FCSSPs, like, this is always a topic of conversation. So just wanted to add those two pieces, that yes, we are constantly, from the beginning of the school year until the money is expended, we are on FCSSP's principals, the EDSLs, about spending Title I dollars. And Sharice, if you could just note that for me, that we would need to ask our Office of Finance if monies were sent back last year and what that dollar amount is. All right, that was all I wanted to add, but no rant, Ms. Brody. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Blackburn. And yes, thank you for noting that, and that would be super helpful. And Ms. Brody, I reiterate what I said, it's not a rant. I think we all share your same sentiment here. Mr. Walker, I see you have a question.
Yeah, well, Shante, I mean, clearly got the spirit of it, but my question was, the amount of underspend did look a little worrisome. It made me ask, how is the planning done for this? Because for me, what I see in the underspend, now, I guess if I get a soapbox for a second, is that the school year was launched without much of a plan as to how this money was going to be spent, or maybe what team of people were going to be in charge of it. To me, I'm saying this because I'm not in the school. I'm new to the process. My sense would be that a principal of the school has a lot of things going on, and if there's not a clear plan, I'm not sure even a principal can really understand how to spend the money. So I guess my question is, one, is there, how's the planning process done? And is there an opportunity to maybe assign some team of people to really bird dog this particular activity so that this activity is actually executed? Because I think it's not about spending the money. If it's not smartly spent, then I think we don't gain from it either. So I'm kind of wondering, is the gap that there's not somebody really in charge of the parent engagement or community engagement activities?
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Ms. Mitchell Davis.
Yes, thank you. So our FCSSPs take the lead on how monies are spent, but we do have them capturing the voice of parents by way of surveys and PTO meetings, SGC meetings, because it needs to have a parent voice to it as to what the needs are, capacity, all of that. So once that information is gathered, then the team, whether it's the FCSSP, the principal, the exec, parent committee, or others at the school, would plan workshops or have events or order materials based on, again, the voice of the parents. So there could be different reasons as to spending the monies. It gets to finance, maybe it's missing documentation, or maybe it wasn't an allowable expense, things of that nature, because there are guidelines to spending the money. So from our office, we do provide professional learning. We provided planning templates. We provided guidance on what to spend, how to spend it, but again, encouraging the FCSSPs to capture the voice of the parents and the voice of those in the school building to decide on how the monies are spent. So it is a topic that we discuss and go over monthly, in addition to our cohort meetings with the FCSSPs, to help them with spending the money. Again, not just spending the money to say, go out and buy 500 notebooks or however many for the school, but that it is an effective event or materials that's needed that can support what the plan is in place and how it captures the voice of the parents and support them in that capacity. And so that's really, really like the scope of how the monies are spent. And that's what the message has been, to ensure that we're capturing parent voice and coming up with a plan of monies and how we could meet that goal.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell Davis. And I just want to be mindful of time. We have 10 more minutes. I'm going to have my colleagues they have their hands raised, ask their questions, and then I would like to move on to our monthly report. And if there are any other specific questions about Title I funds, again, you can send it to me or Christina. Ms. Brody?
So I just wanted to share with you and Mr. Walker that I've shared here many times that prior to being a board member, when I was a parent on SGCs and PTOs, what the district did at the time is they had a Title I committee. So usually at the school, there's one person that's the Title I liaison, and then it could be a parent that joins them, but they had meetings every month that they could come to, and everyone is sharing ideas on things that they know will pass through finance. Like this event, you can have this event because it's already been vetted. We've had this event at our school. So they did a good thing a few superintendents ago, but they actually had that created so we're not sending money back. So parents are sharing, schools are sharing. We had the science center come in. We did something with math and science, so it's already been done in the past. Like nothing has to be recreated. It's just making it a priority as a district. And that's all I wanted to share.
Thank you, Ms. Brody. Mr. Walker? Oh, you're on mute. There we go.
Pardon me, hit the wrong button. So Ms. Brody's point, I would definitely take as an action for the committee to look at. And I wanted to touch on Ms. Mitchell Davis's point and say, because I was asked too about the financing process, because I was pondering whether that's overly bureaucratic. And so I'm wondering if it's worthwhile bringing this up as a minor topic for the finance committee meeting, because maybe it's worth looking at to see if there's some ways to improve that finance approval process to make it more streamlined. Because if it's too bureaucratic, it's too hard for people, and again, money doesn't get spent.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought that was
no. I'm done. I want to get Ms. Mitchell Davis's feedback on that. Is this a topic? Is it worth looking at the approval process through finance?
I mean, I guess so. What I want to also add, if I can, so one, this has been ongoing, like the Title I monies. And so it was quite challenging spending the monies. I know when it was, we were in the pandemic and there were no new like guidelines. The guidelines remain the same. And so, in-person meetings, workshops and all of that, like things just look different. And now it's like picking things back up again. With a new way of working. And it could have been, some challenges with some than others, which is why our office were providing, the support in that capacity. So, I mean, it is something that we're still working with the schools and FCSSPs. I'm not sure about the Title I coordinator and who that was at the time. So definitely would be interested in knowing that. but it could be a topic for finance. Good question.
Yeah. I think, thank you, Ms. Mitchell Davis. I think we can talk offline to see what the best approach for that is, Mr. Walker. I think just two things that I got from this, and I agree with my colleagues. One, definitely letting us know how much funds we sent back to the federal government that we didn't spend last year. And two, it would be great to know about the Title I coordinator. If we did have it in the past, what happened? Like, why did we stop doing that? That would, if we can look into that, and Chief Blackbird, we can talk offline when we meet to go into that a little bit more. But those are the two biggest takeaways about this so far. And with 5 minutes to spare, I want to just give a couple of minutes on an update for our Welcome Center. And then I kept to my promise, trying to keep you guys out on time. So who wants to give the monthly Welcome Center report? Who does that go to?
Ms. Fagan.
Great.
Judith, can you guys hear Judith? Ms. Fagan?
I can't hear anything.
Oh.
Is there still audio issue potentially?
Ms. Fagan, your iPhone is muted? I know your video is not muted, but your iPhone is muted. I'm going to ask you to unmute. Maybe that'll. Oh, let's see a chat.
So if.
Huh, that's.
Is there,
Can you hear me now?
There we go. Perfect. Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm on the phone with the audio. And so my name is Judith Fagan. I'm the director of the Welcome Center. So I present the monthly data report for the Welcome Center, which is mostly consists of numbers. However, we do the report, by school, by reasons, and we log everything that comes in through the Welcome Center. So this month we had 365 intakes, and as the board chair says, we don't want to go through everything. In comparison, we had on 21 concerns and 303 requests. And on the request comes information, services, whatever the case is. So the lower the complaints, I think the better we're doing. And as you can see, our top 5 reasons, we had homeless being 85, transportation, clothing, hygiene kits, and we log everything, so we're accountable to what goes out of the Welcome Center and what comes in. The top schools, you can see we do it by elementary, middle, and high, and other meaning schools outside of the district, new students, and new visions, other alternative programs that parents still call us. Christina, if you could go up with the report. In terms of homeless students, we identified 41 this month, of which 10 were fire victims. We also received donations in the Welcome Center. This month we had none. And we did 3 registrations for the partnership we have with United Way for the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. We were able to do 3 registrations this month. In terms of the data report, it is part of the doc, so you can go through it. And if you have any questions, you can follow up through Christina. And we also have a graph that compares last year to this year. That's part of the report also.
Thank you so much. Mr. Walker, Ms. Brody, do you have any questions?
No. Thank you, Ms. Fagan.
You're welcome.
Ms. Brody?
Nope, I'll follow up if I have any questions in the interest of time.
Great, thank you so much, Brody. And the only question I have, and we can follow up after, is just as a new board member, the average numbers of these complaints and concerns that come up. What I just for background, like what is the average number that you guys get? And I'm sure the beginning of the school year is a lot, and compared to other months, I'm assuming, but that would be helpful information. I don't need an answer now, just we can follow up with that afterwards. So the key takeaways from this committee meeting, and let me know if I missed anything. Oh, Chief Blackburn.
No, I wanted you to wrap up. I usually just ask board members a question before we end, because I know you all have ears to the ground and all of that. So once you're done, yeah.
Okay, that sounds like a plan. So let me just do a quick overview of the main things and follow-ups, and of course, we'll meet offline. Getting the Hartford Parent University data, as we spoke about. Following up with those specific community partners at those, the Ascend Pipeline schools. And then whether or not any Title I funds were given back last year, how much were given back last year, and if we can look into the Title I coordinators and exactly what happened there, and if we can reinstitute that potentially. So those are the main takeaways that I got from this committee today, and I'll pass the floor to you, Ms. Chief Blackburn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just, always like to, while we're in the meeting, ask our board members, like, is there anything that you want to share with us? Are things kind of bubbling up from the schools, citizens you run into? We just like to ask, want to be collaborative, want to be, in partnership. So just wondering, are there any pieces that come up that we need to know about? And hopefully we'll be able to address them.
Thank you, Chief Blackburn. That's a really great question. And I'll pass it on to my colleagues, Mr. Walker, Ms. Brody. Is there anything?
You can leave it open.
Yeah, not presently, but I do hear things periodically, and so I will bring it up in this forum.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Ms. Brody?
Presently, as it relates to this committee, is the planning, the progress for the Parent Leadership Academy. That's a frequent question I'm been getting often. Caregiver, family, whatever. I can't never remember the name of it.
And thank you, Ms. Brody. And I believe that we are scheduled to, I know we did an update at the last committee meeting. So the next update is for the following committee meeting. But yes, we will make sure that we have that information.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Brody and Chief Blackburn. I do not have anything presently besides what we're sharing, COVID and everything else in between. I think the only thing was the shooting that happened in Garden Street. One of the parents unfortunately passed away from that. And, and I know you guys are going to check in on the students and staff and everyone. So I appreciate that. But, summer's coming around, spring is coming around. And as we know, when warmer weather gets there, there's unfortunately more gun violence. And I'm just hoping none of our staff and none of our students and parents get affected by that, but we know that's not a reality, unfortunately, right now. We will work towards that though. But anyway, that was my biggest concern, is just the shooting that took place on Garden Street. So I appreciate your staff and everyone doing what they have to provide those services to our students. And just, the SMSA situation, just the continuous providing them with the support that they need. With that being said, 6:03, I wish it was 3 minutes past, but that's okay. We will work on that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Chief Blackburn. We will touch base offline. And I'm looking forward to this work with each and every one of you. Should you have any questions, you can reach out to Christina. You can reach out to me as well. And this is an open committee. I welcome thoughts and questions and concerns, and there's no such thing as a dumb question. So please, thank you so much. And you guys have a great evening.
Thank you so